immigrants. And what they didn't understand, they kept being very, very hostile about it and saying, these children never respect us. They don't pay attention. They don't listen. And they didn't understand that the children came from African descent where not looking at somebody is respectful. And the teachers kept saying, look at me, which is a whole different cultural demand. Now, similarly, I used to work at the University of Rochester Counseling Center, and while I was there, I received a referral. Extremely distraught admissions officer who felt that I was being the young woman I was being referred to was on the verge of suicide. And as I listened to this young woman, she came from Guyana. She was an immigrant. She had moved to the United States but lived in an immigrant neighborhood. And suddenly coming to the University of Rochester was overwhelming. The culture was so different. And it wasn't at all that she was feeling suicidal. She was homesick. She was sad. She missed her family, but her nonverbals were those of somebody who could be really depressed. Fortunately, since I was trained in nonverbal communication, I understood what she was trying to communicate, that she was homesick and that she was also respectful and that it was extremely difficult for her to tell a university administrator or official that she was homesick, especially because she had a scholarship. So that would seem most ungrateful. So with that in mind, I want to say a few things. I'm remembering a professor that I had when I was in graduate school. He came to China. I think he went to the mainland, not to Hong Kong. And he was my professor and my thesis advisor in counseling and psychology. And he came back to say, they have very unusual ways of doing counseling in Asia, or at least in China. They talk about body parts, like the eyes are talking, and the lungs are talking, and the heart is talking. And he thought it was very strange. Why are they such heart-centered people? Well, I was just a student. I didn't know anything. And 20 years later or so, I'm teaching a class, and we're talking about the body-mind connection, because that's how Westerners are now trying to understand it. Because no longer are we victim to the Cartesian split, but we're understanding that there's a body-mind connection. And I'm talking and talking, and there's this person in the class, and she comes from Hong Kong, and she just doesn't understand, why do we keep talking about the body-mind connection? And ultimately, we began to understand. And who was that person? But Dr. Rainbow Ho. So she was my student who taught me to look deeper and deeper into the question of understanding the body and the mind. So with that in mind, I do want to say something in terms of cultural conflict. I'm an American. You are people from Hong Kong. We may have very different styles. We were already talking about that a little bit, about how I misunderstood certain signals, and I had to figure them out on my own. But the other part of it is I am a strange American. I come from a place, not only just New York City, but I come from Manhattan, right in the middle of New York City. So my style might be a little strange to you, and so if you see something, just recognize that perhaps I'm speaking in foreign tongue, or my nonverbals are nonverbals that you don't quite understand. So the reality is Manhattan has a culture of its own. So what we're going to do today is look at what are some of the common denominators. What are some of the things that cut across all nonverbal styles? What is it that we can say that every culture has? So for example, every culture has breath. every culture has a relation to rhythm, because we're all born with a heart. We all have heartbeats, and so we all understand certain things. But one of the things that I am most interested in is, what is it that is global? What is it that is universal? What can we all share together? And so what I'm interested in is actually the natural forms of movement, natural forms of dance that cut across all styles. D.H. Lawrence, I don't know how many of you are familiar with him. He's the author who wrote books like Lady Chatterley's Lover. He said that the present moment is everything. And that's what we're going to be looking for. How do you stay fully present in ways that are not just meditation? How, and of course, you know, nothing against meditation. I love meditation. I feel meditation has helped heal me in certain difficult situations. But there also is something, how can we continue that experience of staying present when we really are doing more than meditating? And so what we're going to be doing today is, hopefully you'll understand a little bit about LivingDance and understand one particular concept, which is going to be different to people, and that is the concept of shape. So we're going to try to get a grip on it, get a sense of the different ways it works, and then find out, how does science support what we believe? That we have understood in dance and movement for years, and now science is telling us, ah, yes, that's the case.
Can someone adjust the microphone a little bit? It sounds kind of rough.
The microphone is strange. What can we do to fix the microphone?
Doesn't bother you?
Is the microphone okay, or is it bothering you?
If it's okay, then it's all right.
Oh, it's all right? Okay. So,
Never mind.
so what we're going to do is look at the natural elements of dance and movement that allow us to be alive to the present, that allow us to be with the living moment. But we're going to focus on one concept in particular, and that is the concept of shape. The concept that allows me to come up here, who is barely, I don't know how to do it in meters, but 4 feet 10 inches, and speak to a whole group. What is it that allows me to do that? And what is it that makes you look at a dancer when you're at a concert, and you look at that person and you see that person and you just focus on one person? Why are you doing that? So what we're going to do is do a little bit of a warm-up using 3 of the basic elements of dance and movement. And just to let you understand, LivingDance is looking at motion that cuts across all styles, movement that we'll see in Chinese dance, in the waltz, that we'll see in dance that's coming from the Mideast. Everybody has certain things that are the same. It doesn't mean that you're going to respond to it the same, but we all deal with breath. We all deal with the pulse. We all deal with our muscles. And we all deal with what's called the body boundary. I can understand that this sound is, over here the sound is coming strange. How is the sound coming to you? Is it coming strange to you? Oh, should I take something off? Okay, is that better? Oh, much better. Okay. It was beginning to bother me also. Okay, so what we're going to do is, let's see if we can just warm up rather quickly. Everybody, put your feet on the floor, okay? And how many of you here are drivers? How many of you know how to drive a car? Okay. All of you drivers, and even those of you who've sat in a car, How many of you know or had the experience when you're driving along and you get someplace and then you say to yourself, how did I ever get there? You know, you've had so many things going on in your mind and you think, oh my goodness, I'm here already. Or the other piece, you're planning to go someplace and you find yourself, you go automatically to the place you always go, right? That's because our mind is going. What we're going to try to do is put our mind in our feet, okay? We're going to try to put our mind in our feet. So make your feet your computer. So here we go. Everybody, we're going to go nice and easy. We're going to put our mind in our feet. Everybody have your mind in your feet? Okay. Now you can also make your mind in your feet slower, 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 slower. What we're doing is we're working with the brain, left side brain, right side brain, communicating. Halves of the brain are communicating. But now let's go a little bit faster. And how about now? Okay, so let's find the middle road and we'll just go. And now we can move our hands with it, right? Any way you want. We're just moving up a little bit. Okay, and in your own seat, you can move your hands up. We're just warming up, getting the beat. And let's reach out, and I can say hello to Susan because I know Susan's name, and I can say hello to Mrs. Ho because I know Mrs. Ho's name. Okay, how about elbows? Just gonna move. So what we're doing is we're working with a steady beat with the one. Now how about if we change it to a rhythm and we go one, 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 one. And how about if just trying something with your hands? And now anything you want. Anything you want. How about just twisting a little bit? You can just do. Okay, now that's just shaking everything. And turn to your neighbor and say hello. Turn to your other neighbor and say hello. Now turn around and back and say hello. Okay, good. Okay, so now let's go here and we're going to take a nice breath. And another one, nice breath. Now in LivingDance, we find some place on our body where it feels nice to touch. We're not going to go through the whole process. If you want to learn much more about this, you can come to the workshop tomorrow and the day after. Okay, let's just hear. Or you can put your hands here, here, anywhere. Many people like to put here because they're breathing here. Wherever you want to breathe. Just nice and easy. Breathing in the nose and out. You can even put your hands here if you have racing thoughts going on. Wherever it feels good. Yes, you can put your hands here, anywhere. Just breathing in your nose and out your mouth. Nice and easy. Letting your hands be anywhere. And now using your imagination, pretend that you're sending your breath to your hands. We know you're not really happening, but just pretend. The breath is going to my hands. It's as if the breath has a story to tell. And my hands are listening, just the way I wish everyone would listen to me. It's very special to be able to breathe in the nose, pretending that your breath has a story. Your hands are listening. And then gradually bringing your hands down. And we're just going to move with the breath, sensing your muscles. And if you want, you can stand up and feel the stretch. Some people are standing, they're brave. And just allowing yourself, you don't have to stand, you can do it. Just any way you want. Any way you want. Sensing the muscles, allow your breath to go to the muscles. Just nice and easy. And if you put one hand on your body and just feel that connection from breath to muscle. You don't have to put your hand on. It's only if it helps you sense your muscles. And even the small of your back, so because you're going to be sitting for a while. And gradually bringing this part of the experience to a place where you're able to stop. And gradually, in your own time, we'll come back to a place where you can be sitting. I think you should know, and what we're going to be doing now, is we're going to focus on the concept of shape. And why all this is really important is because in dance therapy in general, and living dance in particular, we are trying to provide something that, at least in the United States, does not happen often enough. In the U.S., and you can tell me if it's true in Hong Kong, I don't know. In the U.S., dance is viewed as entertainment, as competition, as virtuosity, and as a form of expressing sexuality. It's very, very rare that we get to see, other in modern dance companies, where dance is trying to be expressive, where dance is trying to help a person say, do how they feel. That's what we're going to try to do today. But we're doing something a little different. We're not going to be necessarily expressing things. What we're doing is we're looking at what are the precursors to expression? How do you help somebody become more comfortable with expressing themselves? The reality is people have difficulty expressing themselves. People have difficulty expressing themselves creatively. So in my view, which is a bit different than traditional dance therapists, traditional dance therapists like to go in and do whatever happens. I believe that's important too, and do that. But I also believe in technique. But the technique that I teach is a technique that grows out of the natural elements of dance and movement that cut across all cultures. And again, how you respond to muscle connectivity, or how you respond to breath, or how you respond to pulse may be different than somebody who lives in Egypt or Israel, for example. That's what I used to think. And when I taught in Taiwan in 2000, I was told that Chinese people are so, this is stereotypes, I granted, but I was told that Chinese people are so well behaved and taught to follow rules so well that nobody would be able to do your dance therapy. It turned out that wasn't the truth. I taught them the basic parameters of living dance. They had tools, and out of the tools came beautiful expression, beautiful dancing, dancing from the heart. And I have much more information about that, but that we're not going to pay attention to right now. Again, you can come to the workshop and get that information. So what we're going to try to do now is look at what shape is about. Let me just see where I am here. I have to move my pages. Okay, so look at those words up there. Shape, somatosensory awareness, and kinesthetic sense of the body boundary. Those are kind of hard concepts to understand, but that's what we're going to be working on. The concept of shape. Shape meaning the sense of our body boundary. What is it that allows me, as I said before, to come up here, be in a culture that's different than what I'm accustomed to, being in a setting that's different than what I'm accustomed to, and stand here and hold my ground? We all want that. How many of you have been in situations where somebody says something to you and then you start to feel really small? You feel like you cannot respond, that your tongue is tied, and you don't know what to do. What we're going to do is work on this basic concept that allows you, when you're in that situation, when your boss, for example, says they didn't like your work, or you turn in a paper in school and there's so much criticism and you feel completely destroyed because you spent hours working on it. Well, there are ways kinesthetically that I have developed actually out of my experience as a dancer that allow one to pull yourself together in that moment so that you can speak clearly and say, for example, to your boss, I understand that you didn't like A, B, C, and D. This is how I was understanding it. Perhaps we can find a middle road, or perhaps we can find another way for you to tell me what it is you want. Or the professor doesn't like your paper, and you say, can you be more explicit? There are all these red marks on my paper, but I don't know what they mean. So all of those kinds of things become really important. And so this work here is we're going to look at how are you able to engage your relationship to your body so that you are able to do that. That's the fancy definition, the somatosensory and kinesthetic sense of the body boundary. What does that mean? Does anyone know what somatosensory is? I think it's hard to understand, but what it is the conscious perception of touch, pressure, pain, position. So you're getting a sense of sensation. People are taking pictures of the slide. Wow, that's fascinating. You're welcome to email me and send me your email address, and I'll send you the slides, so you don't have to do that, okay? How's that? Is it a deal? Okay, good. You see, Rainbow told you he knows how to make a response in the move music every time. So that's a difference between what you see here, the sensation of bodily motion. So there's a difference. Sensation of touch, sensation of pressure, sensation of temperature. That's somatosensory. Sensation of the bodily motion has to do with kinesthetics. So both of those experiences are relevant in terms of understanding shape. Oops, yes, so this is something else. And maybe this is hard to believe, but the goal in working with shape is connection, not perfection. We want to find where the problem areas are so that you can work with those. So that's actually our mantra at Connections, where we have the institute that Ray Mill was talking to you about. Connection, not perfection. If you're perfect all the time, how can you learn? How can you grow? Impossible. So the first method we're going to learn is using your imagination to get to that somatosensory and kinesthetic awareness of the body boundary, or shape. From now on, I'm going to just say shape, okay? Shape being the body boundary. So are you ready to try something new? Okay, here we go.
Put the slide up. It says from imagination.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. From imagination to shape. See, she was right. Jeffrey and I make a very good team.
I yell at her. She yells at her. Find a way to express.
Okay. All right. This is what I'd like you to do. Everybody ready to imagine things? Okay. I want you to think of a bowl, B-O-W-L, a bowl, okay? Think of a bowl either that's in your home that you love, or that's in your family of origins home, or a bowl that you saw in a beautiful store and you really wanted it, or a bowl that you have in your mind that you would like. But think of a bowl. Take a moment now to close your eyes and imagine that bowl. Think of what that bowl looks like for you. What color is it? What shape is it? Is it smooth? Or does it have rough edges? Or maybe things carved into the sides of it? Is it small? Is it large? Is it fragile? Is it made of porcelain? Something you don't want to drop? Just think of what that bowl is like for you. Is it made of wood? Is it made of pot clay? What is it made of? What is its color? What its texture is like? Now, imagining what it looks like, make the shape of the bowl with your hands. Make the shape of the bowl with your hands. Imagine that you are holding it. Feel the texture. That's using your somatosensory sense. You're feeling the texture with your mind's eye, with your imagination. Feel the shape of it. Now, take that bowl, which is very precious to you, and just let yourself bring it up, carry it up, imagining that you're carrying it up, and bring it down very carefully. And then carry it to your side, and to the other side. And then when you're able to, bring it to center and see what it's like to stand up holding it. Just stand up holding it and just allow yourself to take a few steps to the side or a few steps forward. Allow yourself to carry it and kind of turn now, open your eyes and turn towards your neighbor, and like you're showing the bowl to your neighbor and to your other neighbor and perhaps someone behind you. And just see what it's like. And notice what's happening to your body. Imagine you're walking somewhere with this very precious thing. You don't want it to fall. Now see what happens as you take a few steps around. And see what happens to your body. What do you notice? What do you notice about your posture? Can you sense where the top of your head is when you're doing this? Do you notice that your posture changes as you're very careful? Now being aware, coming back to where you are, of the top of your head and your feet, Are you able to sense your neck, where your neck is, and your shoulders? Can you sense where your feet are? Do you have an awareness of yourself? Now, as you're holding it, and just holding it forward, see what it's like to look ahead, straight ahead, and sense the top of your head, your feet. How about your fingertips? And then carefully sitting down with your bowl, notice what happens with your body, how careful you are. Now, can you be aware of changes in your body? You can put your bowl down now if you like. And just notice how your body might feel different at this moment. What do you notice besides your hands might be a little bit tired from holding the bowl? What do you notice? Are you able to sense where the top of your head is at the moment? Can you sense where your feet are? How about your fingertips? Can you sense where your fingertips are? Do you have a different experience of your body at this moment? You're beginning to sense what shape is about. Shape is about understanding this body boundary and connecting to your body boundary. So now, that's method 1. I know you have to go, Mrs. Ho. Yes. I know. Mrs. Ho has to leave. Okay, so this is a summary here. Why is it beeping? On your sheet that you got is a summary of what we did, so we'll go now. Did you notice a sense? How about people on this side of the room? Did you get a sense of different change in your body? You began to sense, you're much more aware now of the sense of who you are. So let's find method 2, which is a little bit different. We're going to be going now from touch to shape. And how many of you have Twitter accounts here? Anybody? Did something happen again? Is that okay? Can you hear me now? Okay, so I'm all right. It'll look a little strange, but I'm all right.
Someday technology will work a lot better because there will be no more people in the way. It will just be technology. Working perfect.
Okay, so now we're going to go from working touch to shape, which is a little bit different. And touch is really important because touch in our brain. So none of you have Twitter accounts? Okay. Those of you who have Twitter accounts, if you have a Twitter account, you can log in on your phone, okay? And only if you have one. Don't worry about it. It's not important. But if you have a Twitter account, and what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to write responses afterwards and just send it to your Twitter account, but write hashtag LivingDance with capital L, capital D, one word, okay? So let's see what it's like to work with touch and the feeling of shape. Okay, you ready? Okay, so we're going to do it very quickly. This is usually a process that goes incrementally, working slowly, but we're going to try it, okay? So just for fun, we're going to just pat our heads, all right? You know, kind of like kindergarten. We could also be very nice to our heads and go just, But just for time's sake, you like this one? Yeah, it's going, And go around your ears, down your neck, to your shoulders. Okay, let's try it again. Head around your ears, neck, shoulders. Got it? Now, put your hands down. Are you more aware now of your shoulders than you were before? Yeah, because you just paid attention to them, right? Okay, so now, though, what we're going to do is we're going to do much faster than we ordinarily would. We usually take time to do this. Are you ready to bend down? Okay, here we go. Let's see. Should we do it this way? Or should we oh, okay, you guys are going to stand up. All right. Okay. All right, good. Okay, so you got your feet. We're going to do it this way then. We're going to pat. Caribbean music or something. Yeah, that's good. Salsa or something. Okay, got it? A little bit more. Okay, let's pat the... Okay, we're going to start again. Okay, starting up here again. Okay, only this time we're going to go all around. We're going to have to go this way, easier. Up and down the fingers. Up and down the fingers. And now we pat back up. And down, 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 down. Okay, start again. And then easy around the fingers. Around the fingers here. And patting up here. Okay, and down. Now the other side. To the wrist, and then up and down the fingers. And patting up here again. And down. Got it? Okay, now hands over here. Can you sense your torso now, where your torso is? Yeah? Can you sense where your shoulders are? How about your fingertips? Okay, now put your hands out like this. Can you sense where the valleys are in your fingers, in between your fingers? So you know where the up and down of your fingers are? You got it? See? Can you sense in between here? Can you sense in between here? Okay, let's go down now. And remember, you have 5 toes. All the way up towards your crotch. Yeah. Okay, now once here, down the legs. Can you see me back there? Okay, all the way going down and around your toes. Okay. All right, now, can you sense your waist just by standing where you are? You guys over there, can you sense this part, the waist? Yeah? How about your shoulders? How about your feet? All right, now we're going to go slow. Whoa. Around your ears. Down your neck to your shoulders. And then around. Up and down. Up and down. All around. Down to your armpits and down. And the other way, around, up and down. I'm raising my hand so people in the back can see. I'm vertically challenged, I'm sorry. And all the way down and around. That is your body boundary. The kinesthetic sense. So now, how can you sense your fingertips? Do you know where, can you sense the top of your head? And if you're not able to, this is the job. Remember I said it's connection, not perfection? Your next job, pay attention to your sense of the body boundary, shape. Find the places where it's hard to connect. Many people find it hard to connect here. If it is, just put your hands here. If it's hard to sense your top of your head. Okay, so now what we're going to imagine is just a light going all around your body boundary. You can pick whatever color you want. If you prefer to imagine a feather tracing you. Or, how many of you know what a doll is like that has a seam? You sew 2 parts and you put the cotton inside, the stuffing. Maybe this is your seam. Okay, now your job is to close your eyes and just try moving one part of you and see if you can still sense the body boundary. I'll give you a hint. If you're moving your right arm, be more aware of your left side. What we're looking for is equal distribution of energy, and for you to find the places where it's hard to sense. Find the places where you have difficulty. That's the key to learning how to do this. So don't be perfect. Pay attention to the top of your head. Touch the part of you that is harder to sense. Sew yourself up with touch. Find the holes in your seam and sew yourself up with touch. Do I have any volunteers who want to come out here and try dancing over here? Anybody daring it? Come on, good for you. Just close your eyes and see what it's like now to move and find the holes in your seam. You guys, the rest of you keep doing it. She's just doing it there for... Anybody else? And anytime you find a part in your outline that you're not able to sense, so now you be more aware of your left side. We're looking for equal distribution of energy. So the energy, no matter what you're doing, is equal around you.
So what should I do?
Yeah, just keep moving.
Keep moving.
Yeah, and just sense the part that's not moving. The secret is to keep moving, but focus your attention on the part that's not moving, or the part where there is the hole in your seam. And if you need more space, feel free to come out here. And we'll take 1 more minute to do this. That's exactly right. Finding the, yeah. So now, if you find all your energy going up towards the heavens, make sure you're aware of your feet so that we have equal distribution of awareness and energy. And gradually, in your own time, bring this part of your experience to a stopping place. And find words to describe how you felt from this. How do you describe what just happened for you? Because I can see changes. Words to describe. And if you have a tweet, you could tweet it, but you don't have to. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can look here as someone who has her shape. And gradually, let's come to a stopping place. And when you sit down, can you sit down? And write down words to describe how you felt when you were doing it. Like, write down how you felt when you were here. Do you have words? No, okay, sorry. Okay. It's okay. Write words that might describe how you felt in the moment when you were doing this. Any words. And then are there any brave souls to share with us what kind of words they came up with? Free. You felt free. Any other words? Floating. Floating. Flight. Huh? Comedy. Oh, calming. Harmony. Sorry. I'm having trouble hearing. Harmony. Harmony. Any other words? Peace. Relaxed. Anything else? Okay. Secure. Happy. Secure. Yes? Sensitive. Fragile. In what way fragile? Like you could break? Or that you meant open, you know. Open. Anything else? Anybody here feel a sense of self, that you felt present in the moment? Did anybody here feel present? Raise your hand if you felt present. Did anybody feel a sense of self, like I'm here? Raise your hand if you felt I am here. Okay. How about anybody feel a sense of, in English it's autonomy. I don't know how you say it. Oh, you felt a sense of autonomy? Yeah? Raise your hand if you felt a sense of autonomy. Okay. See, this experience, I mean, we did it very fast. This is something that usually takes time, over time to do. What about you, Susan? What words did you have? Spontaneous, yeah. What happens with this work is it's usually done very incrementally. Like, what's your name?
I'm Mona.
Mona was kind enough to come here, and Mona was really doing the very right instruction, the basic concept. And what I told her, which was hard for her to understand right away, is that if she was moving, you were moving one arm, and when one is moving that arm, paying attention to the other side, because the goal is to have equal distribution of energy. And when you're moving something, that's already got some energy in it. So you need to have your psychic awareness to the other side. And the goal is that when you have a hole in your seam, you say, like for me, when I first was figuring this out, just in terms of dance, I knew I had trouble connecting here. So by working first with touch, that's the important thing. When you're unable to connect to something, you work with touch to sew yourself up, if you will. It's like if I was a doll and I had stuffing inside of me, and this way I sew myself up through touch. And eventually, I can sew myself up with just my mind's eye. Like, okay, I have the kinesthetic trace in my brain that allows me to sew myself up just with my mind. And what that does is when that boss is angry at you, what you do is you make sure you're breathing because we don't want you to faint. And you breathe, and by, you're in a situation you can't do like that or like that. You just focus on this is why you have to practice anything. Just like you practice meditation, you have to practice this. You practice Tai Chi, you have to practice this. And so in any tough situation, I can sew myself up like this. I mean, I remember a time when 3 days before a national convention, the National Association of Female Executives called me up and said, our keynote speaker is unable to come. Will you come and give a speech? 3 days to think about something. And of course, my first thought was, what am I going to wear? And then after what I was going to wear, I decided I would talk about nonverbal communication, and I would talk about, I don't remember, something with nonverbal communication in the business world. So I got to the auditorium. It was a huge hotel, big conference room. Jeffrey was not there. We weren't doing LivingDance, LivingMusic yet. It was early in my developing this concept. And I get to the podium, and there's a speaker here, and I'm not, as I said, vertically challenged, so height, I feel comfortable in Hong Kong, actually. And I cannot see over the dais. Well, that was a little embarrassing, even though I had my beautiful outfit on with high heels. My heart went like that. But I am so trained into working with the shape that I immediately sewed myself up, boom, here. And I said to the host, do you think you could get me a box that I could stand on? And I did. And I completely changed my speech. And I did a talk about shape. And I took 300 female executives incrementally, you guys didn't do it incrementally, you did boom, boom, boom. But step by step by step. And they were taking off some kept their high heels on, but they're all in business suits and everybody's out to impress the other person. And they're all doing this dancing, working with the shape. And then afterwards I asked for comments, and a lady raised her hand. She said, I am a banker. I am only 34 years old, and this is the first time that I have felt my body as a whole in 3 years. I had a stroke 3 years ago, and I've only been able to experience half my body. This is the first time that I feel whole. And she came to a few workshops, but I didn't see her very much. She's a very active business lady. And you want to know something strange? While I was here in Hong Kong, I got a Facebook message from her. She wants to connect with me again. Isn't that strange? And I was going to tell this story already in my plan. So you never know. Okay, so I want to just tell you another case study. A gentleman named Harvey. Harvey is currently 45 years old. 43 years ago, when he was 2 years old, his mother, who was a psychiatric nurse, feared that he was autistic. And she took him to Leo Kanner. Dr. Leo Kanner is the person who established autism as a specific diagnosable illness, creating the list of symptoms. And Dr. Kanner said, yes, your son Harvey is definitely autistic. He meets virtually all the criteria. Fortunately, she was living in Rochester. There was a psychiatrist there named Dr. Sapon, he's no longer alive, who worked with him in some way so that he began to be able to function and even ultimately went to graduate school and got an MBA. However, he never could do anything with the MBA, and he didn't have any social skills. He didn't know how to communicate feeling-wise at all. I mean, he didn't have a vocabulary for feelings. And yet, he longed for what everybody longs for, and that is to be able to communicate with somebody else. And he really couldn't. And to make it even worse, he had a younger brother who was extremely gifted. Both are intelligent. He's not unintelligent. But he, nowadays they might call him, say he had Asperger's, rather than autism. But that may be only because Dr. Sapon worked with him. But still, he didn't know how to connect with people. His main friend was his mother. And that's even after he went to graduate school. She contacted me. He joined a group. And the difference is like night and day. First of all, and to give you an example, I had to stop the group. He was in the group for 2 years, and then I needed to stop it and take a hiatus. I was too overbooked. And his mother took him. She called me to an alternate kind of healer, somebody who does various herbal healings and things like that. And she's also happens to be an MD. And that doctor said to him, so what is the thing that was most upsetting to you that your mother is bringing me here? And he said, the thing that's upset me the most is that my group has ended. The group provided him an opportunity to communicate, and he really did learn how to start. It was funny, the group would say, okay, we want a feeling from you. They were really very strong, right, Jeffrey?
Yeah.
So,
At first, you couldn't identify feelings.
not at all, not at all.
Saying, look, you have to be feeling something. What are you feeling?
And then he would even ask, what is a feeling? And next to finding shape from the third method. And that is by working from your joints, all right? So let's all try to work with our joints. You know all your joints? Fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulders. How many of you know how to do the robot? Anybody? Who? Oh, you see, you're not an American group. The Americans all know how to do the robot. Okay? How about the wave? Do any of you know the wave? Yeah? Okay, but now let's see if you can wave and get it through your whole body. All right? Getting it. Yeah, but see now here, look. If we go here, here, and see if you can make an X going towards your other toe. Here, put your feet apart. That'll help you. You can stand up. You don't have to. You can sit down. So if you go joint to joint to joint to joint to joint to joint, yeah, down there. And here the other way. So you're making an X. Those of you who know Laban movement analysis, is there anyone here besides Rainbow? Oh, so if you know LMA, that X form in Bartemia from the fundamentals. I'm starting to fall apart at the seams again. I need to work on my shape. Either that or the mic shape. Okay, so here, now, let's just try moving around, experiencing all your joints. Yeah, experience your joints. You play, don't dance. Okay, yeah, all the joints. Now, imagine as if you were lying on the floor and you lift your baby and you lift your head. Okay, now you know how baby reaches out. Reach out. So you're discovering your joints. Discovering your joints. And then pretend you're down on the floor and you learn how to sit up. More joints. And then you learn how to stand up. More joints. But before that, let's go back because I forgot something really important. You're down on the ground and you learn how to turn around and roll over. So just see that. So try those different motions. Yeah, so you try those different motions. Yeah. But joint to joint. Now you can do joint to joint like this. Watch. You can do joint to joint, sliding. Let's slide. Sliding, 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 sliding. Or you can jump, jump, jump from joint to joint. Jump, 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 jump. Or you can leap from joint to joint. Leap from joint to joint. Leap. Leap. Or you can just walk from joint to joint, kind of down the yellow brick road. Just walking, walking. So walk, 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 walk. Okay, now the thing is we've been focusing so much on the joints. Anybody notice that you weren't paying attention to the top of your head? So here, hands on head, sewing up the seam and joint, joint, joint. Okay, now taking off your hands and going from joint to joint while you keep aware of the top of your head. Okay, we'll bring this to a stopping place. Now, can you sense your body outline, your sense of yourself? If you think now you have the sense of your joints, can you be aware now? Try to be aware of the sense of your body outline, your shoulders, your feet. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a case study on a video where the way we worked was by working from joint to joint. Let me tell you first about...
You just tell her.
Okay. Yeah, he's working on making sure it works. Okay. Here's this young man named Sam. He came to me when he was about 15. He had a very, very sad history. He had lived in 5 foster homes. He and his siblings were removed from their home because the mother was severely alcoholic and couldn't take care of them. And he was born deaf, profoundly deaf. He couldn't hear anything. And he had this idea, which I learned from him in my early time of working with him. He had this idea that his mother, who had died because he was deaf. Somehow he had magical thinking. You know how children have magical thinking? They think they have powers. And he thought that he had caused her demise, her death. So he had a lot of guilty feelings around that. He also couldn't express himself. He didn't have an ability to do sign language. He wasn't able to talk either very well because he never heard. He was profoundly, profoundly deaf. And he was in so many foster homes because people didn't know how to take care of him. They couldn't figure it out. And I guess his sister was a problem also. So the sister, he and the sister were brought to a 5th family. And that family worked really, really well with them. So the family said, we're going to adopt the 2 of you. They had their own biological children, and they were going to add them to the family. And then, lo and behold, one of the biological daughters said that Sam had sexually abused her. And so the Department of Social Services removed him from the home. The parents said, we are not adopting him, we'll adopt your sister, the sister, not him. So suddenly he was completely abandoned. He had no mother. He didn't know who his father was. And now the one sibling, he had other siblings, but they somehow had been sent out to other foster homes. The 2 of them had been kept together. Suddenly he was separated. And he was brought to where I was working, at Hillside Children's Center, to a special unit for emotionally disturbed, profoundly deaf youth. So when I got him, I discovered something fascinating about him. He was the best mime I had ever seen. I could know everything that was going on inside of him because he could act it out. That's how I learned about his being guilty about his mother. That's how I learned how he felt like he was trapped. That's how I learned how he hated being in an institution, how much how angry he was, but how he was otherwise unable to express his feelings to people. People didn't take time to let him act them out for him the way I did. And so he developed a really bad habit. How many, I'm not going to say how many of you. Some of you probably clench your jaws, right? And, well, he did that all the time to hold back his feelings, all the time, until it would get so bad, the rubbing against the jaw and the teeth, that he would get infections in there. And he would hold back his feelings, and then suddenly something would trigger him, and he would literally explode. And when I say explode, I mean breaking windows, throwing chairs through windows. He got truly aggressive. And so when we're working with me, I made a task for myself. And the task, there are many things that we did, but it took time. I worked with a communications therapist at the same time. So we were teaching him sign language, and then I was using the signs now for him to move into dance. And so what you're going to see first is him in the middle of treatment. In the beginning, it was mostly miming and acting out things, but as treatment developed, he began working with signs, building his language, and being able to dance those feelings. I want you to notice when you see him dancing how bound he is. You can those of you who've taken movement dance therapy with Rainbow will know about movement empathy or kinesthetic identification. See what it's like if you put in your body what you will see with him.
What about shape?
Yes.
What are you showing about shape?
Not yet.
You're going to say after?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
didn't want to lose track.
Yeah, okay. See, you can tell he was a teacher, right? He got a degree in teaching, in education. But in terms of shape, it's clear. You will see that he looks like he's dancing well, but if you look clearly, he doesn't. His parts of his body aren't integrated. In my computer, it works perfectly. I don't know about his computer. Wait, it's just booting up. Okay, I'll tell you some more about him. So what I did was, I worked first on telling him, we have to learn all this tension here, all this tension in here, find a way to get the tension, diffuse it, to get it to go through his body. And so the way we did that, or way I taught him, was about using muscles to go from joint to joint. Okay, so he could go here. Now let a little of the tension go down here. Let it go into your hands. Let it go other places. If the video doesn't work, it doesn't work.
You might need to, I think it's crashed.
This was actually not the segment that we selected, but it doesn't matter. It worked perfectly. And it showed you what somebody looks like when they're in suffering and feel that they're very connected to themselves. And in some ways he was, but it was so intense that everything is directed into bound expression, just like his jaws. And so we worked together, and over time, how many of you know what movement empathy is? Nobody knows. Okay. Well, it's a way of connecting to self in a non-verbal way, in a way of embodying your movement with somebody else's movement, to build relationship. You know, there's something called neurolinguistic programming where they train you to learn how to manipulate people by doing it. We don't want to manipulate people. We want to build empathy. We want to build trust. We want to build relationship. And so what the next video we're going to see, and hopefully it'll be, it's in segment 5. See? Old computers are better than the new ones. Seriously. My computer allows you to go to exactly the right space. His computer, okay. Okay, so maybe we should skip it then.
You only gave me 3 seconds.
I know, but this is Hong Kong where everything is quick. Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to it, okay? While you're working on it, Jeff, okay? And we'll come back to it. I want to introduce you then to number 4, okay? This is number 3, using touch. Number 4, if you'll notice when we worked with shape, we worked with the vertical plane, here's the vertical, and the horizontal plane somewhat. What's called the door plane. That plane, though it's only 2 planes, and ultimately we want to try to be able to get shape into 3 planes. We're not going to go that far today, but we are going to work from working with shape from the inside out. So finding a place where we start with breath. Okay, starting with breath. Find a place on your body where you can have breath going. And now feel how the breath goes to your muscles. Any of you who are working up here, you can feel your pectoral muscles or hear your abdominal muscles, hear your upper abs. It could be, I mean, if it's on your head, you can't feel your head muscles. That's obvious. But if you can just try to, if you can go from breath to the sense of your muscles to your body boundary in terms of your own awareness, going from breath to muscle connectivity to your body boundary. Can you sense that? It's almost like you're blowing up your own balloon in a sense, that you're making yourself into something richer, going from breath to muscle connection to the sense of your boundary. And so now when you have that, let's see if you can then easily begin to move with that. Why don't some people come out on the floor here, because you'll need more space. Come on out on the floor, some of you. Try it. Come on over here. Let's try it. Some of you, be brave souls, all right? Brave souls. Okay, so, and the rest of you can do it in your chairs, but brave souls, or wherever you are, just breathing, breathing, letting it go into your muscles, and then just beginning to experience your feet, your shoulders, your arms, just allowing yourself to grow and shrink. Why don't we do it that way? Breathing in your nose and grow. Exhaling and shrink. Breathing in your nose and growing, exhaling and shrinking. Breathing in your nose, growing, and just moving from your core to your shape. Moving from your core to your shape. You can do it in your chairs, you can do it standing up. There's space here. Why don't we, and space over there? Why don't you use it? Just seeing what it's like to move from your core to your shape, to your body boundary. Growing, shrinking, growing, shrinking. Do you need Adrian? Pay attention to the expansion and contraction of your breath. Inhale, expanding. Exhale, contracting. So you can use your muscles now and your breath as muscles as a bridge between your breath and your body boundary. See what that's like, growing and shrinking. And now begin to see if you have any gaps in your shape. Remember that? We were paying attention to the holes in your shape. Paying attention to the holes in your shape. See what that's like to pay attention to the holes in your shape. Giving yourself a chance to really feel that growing and shrinking. And now letting your motion go. Take risks. Bring in some pulse, some rhythm if you want. Unfortunately, we don't have music right now. Maybe, Jeffrey, you could play some music. Okay, allowing yourself to grow and to shrink. See what it's like to become lengthen and shorten. Just experiencing that growing and that shrinking. There's so much room here, and everybody is so cramped. I guess you're used to small spaces in Hong Kong. Okay, taking your time, growing and shrinking. Using your muscle connection to be the bridge between your breath and your shape. So just allowing that. And now those of you, see what it's like to open your eyes and just maybe connect with someone else. Just see what it's like to connect to someone else. And now you two go out towards them to help them. Yeah, see what that's like. Growing and shrinking. So you have muscle awareness now is connecting between the breath allowing the breath and shape to come together through your muscles. Felt very grounded.
Very grounded.
You looked really grounded.
Yeah, and there is a hole here. Yeah, that's why I put my hand there. Yeah, and I felt so grounded. It seems that I couldn't move. My legs are so heavy.
But still, grounded is not. Grounded is a good thing.
Yeah, but grounded in a negative way.
Oh, I see. Stuck.
Yeah, stuck. Yeah.
Number 5 at 5 minutes. And gradually bring this piece to a place where you're able to stop. A nice way to stop is to find a place on your body again, or here. Okay, so let me tell you some tales that I have about some good case examples that have to do with this. I have 3 really important case examples. That all came from working with the sense of shape, but with muscle connectivity. The joints, joint to joint, and then being able to get the breath and the shape connected by muscle connectivity. That took a lot of work, but it really did happen. Okay, so I wanted to give you the case examples because I'm seeing that time is upon us. In terms of case examples, this woman, Carol, as I said to you, was extremely depressed. And in working with shape with her, I gave her the image, though, that her shape should have the quality of clay. And it allowed her to go from the core to her body boundary. And in that process, now she had had trouble with shape. She couldn't do it. And I had to find a way, how am I going to get her to get herself to be fully present? Because she was always somewhere else, not connecting, always somewhere else. And so here she was with this feeling of clay. She worked, she said, she stopped dancing, and she said, I finally get it. She burst into tears, and this was the first time she ever said anything to me like this. She said, you know, I was a twin, and when I was 29, my twin brother shot himself. And I was away in school, and when I came home, nobody talked about it. No one in my family has ever talked about the suicide. And so that huge loss of someone you were in utero with, and you were really close to, as she was, completely depressed her soul. But by working with the sense of shape, it opened her up. And then she was able to do some wonderful work. Another painful story about a woman named Jane. Jane had this, she was a young woman in her 30s, and she had this strange need to always make the people that she was with feel loved. Her concern was that you should feel loved, never that she should feel loved. Always that you should feel loved, including me, the therapist. I should feel loved. And she was in distress because she wanted to break up with her partner. And what would that do to her partner's feeling of not being loved? She was, so anyway, we worked on shape from core to shape. She had done the previous work. We worked from core to shape. And lo and behold, she was dancing one day and, like this other person, burst into tears. And what did she remember? She had never said a word about it. When she was 3 years old, as a little girl, she used to always sit on the bathtub side when her father shaved. And from one day to the next, he was gone, disappeared. He had committed suicide. She never was told anything about it till she was an adult. She never had a chance to mourn for him. She never went to a funeral. And so working with shape really allows people to be fully present, and when working from core to shape, that lets us get to core issues. And finally, the last case I want to describe to you is one of a Hispanic Latino woman, one of 5 sisters and 3 brothers. All the sisters had been sexually abused by their father. She was the oldest child. Her name was Yolanda. Yoli was her child name. I worked with the whole family for quite a long time. And she finished therapy. She did a lot of good work. She always felt she could never remember everything. She remembered sensations. She remembered footsteps. But she didn't remember the actual act. So she always felt like, am I crazy? I'm making this up. But she healed quite a bit, so to the fact that she married very well. She married a very upstanding scientist. They had a child. All was well. And then when her first child was 8, she got pregnant with twins. She had the twins, extremely difficult delivery for her. I hadn't worked with her in all these 8 years at all. And the children, in any case, she was in the hospital for a long time because she had a huge amount of blood loss. She needed transfusions. But she insisted on always holding the twins and nursing them and holding them together. But when she left the hospital, she became massively depressed, and everybody said, oh, you just have postpartum depression. You just have postpartum depression. But they were 8 months old, and she knew something was different. As soon as she came in, she told me, I have this heavy feeling on me all the time. I knew what she was talking about. That was another sensation of her father. I knew that. But I'm not going to tell her that. She's the client. She has to figure it out. She came in. She remembered everything from what we had worked. She worked with breath. She started to work with shape. And I could see her literally transform into the little 4-year-old girl. Yoli was her nickname. And she started talking to me in Spanish. I didn't understand a word that she was saying. She was dancing and talking in Spanish, but I got the gist of it. I got the sense that she was this kid who was remembering things from the past really deeply. And she finished dancing. We talked a bit. And she said, our plan was to have 8 weeks of therapy, and then we would see what would happen. She said, I'll call you up with the next appointment. She never called me up. So about 4 years later, her husband called me up. And what he wanted was to know where to buy a djembe drum, because she had loved when I used the djembe as background to empathize with her. She loved that. So she wanted that. That's a good transition object, but in any case, for those of you who know psychology. But he went and he bought her that. About a year ago, when the twins were 14 years old, one of the twins became massively depressed. And she was extremely worried about her. And she joined our group that we had, the same group that Harvey was in, actually. And in the process, she did really deep work. And she worked with core issues like, on her own, dancing from core to shape, and experience herself as descending into the basement of her house, which was clearly, and going through the cobwebs, all metaphor for descending into the sense of herself. And she understood that. But then what did she do? And this is where LivingMusic comes in. We also did LivingMusic together. One day she took the drum and she played her soul in the drum. Not boom, 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 but really deep, intensive music. Took the rain stick, played another, went back and forth, danced with the instruments. And she's fine. You know, the group ended. Unlike Harvey, who's a mess because the group ended, she's fine. All that's coming from working with shape. Now, I see the time here, so I'm going to tell you in a nutshell what the other slides are. And then you can, we'll find a paper where you can write your email address down, and I will send them to you. How's that? Is the deal? Okay. But in a nutshell, just to let you know what it entailed, is to tell you a little bit about how neurobiology supports now. They are finding out that in the parietal lobe, which is in your brain, in between the temporal and the occipital lobe, is an area called, I'm blanking, it's the somatosensory awareness canal, or solstice. And touch is very, very profound there. We get a lot of our information in the brain about touch, the somatosensory, from that part of the brain. But also what they have found is that the parietal lobe houses the part that allows us to have agency, that allows us to feel that we have a sense of self. In that part of the brain also is the ability to be able to have your own personal narrative. It's the ability to be able to say, this is what I'm doing, I'm in space here, but even more complex, to have your own story. And if you'll notice, touch is very important in the work with shape. It's very important in the work with LivingDance in general. And so my belief, that's a hypothesis, I need some people to test it out, is that why shape works so well in part is because we are working with touch and we are working with that part of the brain that speaks to agency and self-referential narratives, narratives that speak to ourselves. Pardon?
Is that the right slide?
Yeah, that's, okay, there it is, the post-central gyrus, which is indeed a sulis, whatever, suls, how you pronounce it. Okay, yeah. So, and then also on the slides it tells you how it would benefit you and how, if you're going to be a psychologist or a helping person, how it will help clients. And the way it does is, when you, how many of you have ever been in a group meeting and people get into conflict? Okay. What it does is it allows you to handle the conflict really well, to stay clear, and when people in group therapy use no shape, it allows people to communicate in deep and non-aggressive ways, but honest and authentic ways. You can be a true person, genuine about who you are. And so I hope that you'll be able to find this work helpful. Make sure you sign up if you want the slides, and we'll email them to you. And two things. If you want to know more and really experience it on a deep level, we're doing workshops tomorrow and Saturday. Here, I think. Yeah, here. And then, oh yes. Okay, Jeffrey's reminding me about one of our clients' poems.
The 3 slides that she just talked about, how shape can help you, will be on your slides. How shape can help group members. And then the wild finish is...
Here. Here's a poem that one of the clients wrote, okay? And it is the welcomed shape. She liked it. It's a bit of a pun, right? I am. Tall am I and all at once, short, too, and fat and thin. Wondrous am I and the shape I'm in. Moving through breath, the in and the out, moving through muscle, around and about. Affirming self am I, most especially, knowing the waist and the not so very small of my back. All of this am I, so very deep and welcomed home to the shape I am. So, and that's written by a person who's been both physically and sexually abused and doing much better. So thank you. Oh. It'll be on the slides. Am I supposed to stay there then? Okay.
Yeah, so thank you very much again for Denise and Jeff's very insightful and very generous sharing. So it's really wonderful to have this workshop in December. It's about Christmas time. So music and dance is probably the very wonderful way to celebrate the festive season. So, and may I remind you all, as Danny has mentioned a couple of times, we still have just a number of seats for the workshop. So in case you are interested in the workshop, please sign up. We can help you with the registration outside. And also, please spend some time to stay behind and help us to fill in this evaluation form, because this is the final public seminar for this Danny Ho holistic workshop series. We really want to hear about your comments, so please help us to fill in the form, and then you can pass it to our staff members outside. And for those of you who would like to have the slides from Denis, please, I will put the form, the plain paper, maybe on the table, so you can come out and leave your email address here in case you want the materials, okay? Thank you very much again for coming.
Well, I have to say that Danny has been practicing dance movement therapy for almost 40 years.
January 1st, it's 40 years. Yes.
And yeah, I forgot to mention that Jeffrey actually is black belt.
A black belt, yeah.
Taekwondo?
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo, okay, in Cantonese. And he has been practicing Tai Chi for more than 30 years. So actually, some of you may notice that the concept of shape that Danny introduced today, especially what she mentioned about the eco-distribution of your energy, you can have some association with martial art. In martial art, we don't need to see the enemies on the back, but we can sense them.
Yeah.
So you know what it is like.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for your presence here, and I really want you to get Danny's concept of shake a little bit and be pleasant all the time. Thank you.
Where is the email address? Paper?
She has it over there. Okay, here. Yes? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have several pieces, so what you have to.
Write clearly so I don't make a mistake. Thank you, sorry.